Hi everybody, Baruch Hashem. Today we're going to finish off the final part of the Sikha that we've been learning today on Tu B'Shvat, the 15th of Shvat, which is the new year for the trees. And tomorrow we're starting a very exciting Sikha, which is Mamish. Right now I'm in the middle of learning it in the mornings. It's something else. Every Sikha you learn by the Rebbe, and that the years get later, especially the last year, each Sikha is like immensely amazing. And the next one is even more amazing. Okay, so we were in the middle of chapter 7, so we'll start over at chapter 7. And we're explaining that through the service of man in this world and the different levels of service which we're talking about, we're learning the whole idea about how that the land of Israel is praised by special fruits, and that each level of fruits have a certain special thing in the service of Hashem. And when we do all the work that we're supposed to do, and that means we refine our whole being, our animal soul, a divine soul, animal soul's healthy, and how we and our clothing, how we represent ourselves on thought, speech, and action becomes our thought, speech, and action become holy. And finally, our action we also bring it down into action, which is our idea of the pomegranates. And then finally the Rebbe says that we remember we're talking about that it says that when it talks about that the special fruits of the land of Israel is blessed on, it uses the word land twice. The first time it says the land. Let's see where this is again. We did this last time. Sorry about that. So it says a land of wheat and barley, vine and fig and pomegranate, which this represents this that says land, and after this represents the service of man with his soul, his animal soul, the idea of bringing joy into both your service, your divine soul with the animal soul, and the idea of making your clothing and your thought, speech, and action good, and finally the idea of your action should be good with the idea of pomegranates. And then the verse goes on and repeats the word, a land of olive oil and date honey. And we learn that this is even a higher level. This is even a level where it's harder to get. You have to dig deeper, you have to work deeper, and these are the levels of the times of Mashiach. By olive oil it says that through the bitterness of the long, difficult gullus, you reveal the pure oil, which the pure oil has to do with the secrets of the Torah. And then finally we said it says land of olive oil and honey and date honey. It says by the honey it has nothing negative to it, it's only positive. So this is what we talked about before, and by doing all of this in a complete, beautiful way, we're able to reveal Mashiach, and we're able to see, like, to reveal the level of time to come, how it's going to be like honey. The Torah will be like milk and honey. Now we remember that this week that we're talking about the parsha that we're talking about is Parshas Bashalach, when Paro sent the Jews out of Egypt. So it says, so we may connect this weekly portion which we read on the Holy Shabbos, the day which from it the Shabbos was blessed all the days of the week following it. In other words, this Shabbos, Tu B'Shvat, Shabbos was on the 13th of Shvat. The day here, this is on Monday with the 15th of Shvat. So all the days of the following week are blessed by the Shabbos B'Shalach. And this is also including, like we did, the Rebbe explained, also the new year for the trees. Namely, the Torah portion of B'Shalach is blessing the new years for the tree. And the new years for the trees is having its complete avoda for us to bring Mashiach. Now we're back to the second paragraph. As was explained, as it was when Paro sent out the Rebbe is going to talk about that when Jews went out from Egypt, we did a strong, hard work. We were in dark descent there. And that through our vote and service being in this dark exile and working, breaking through it, or our toil in this dark exile, we were merited that we should have the level of Paro, like we talked about before in the prior talks, that Paro has to do with the idea of bursting forth. That we were able to merit that Hashem showed his essence to us and gave us the power to his bursting forth, his atomic energy, so to speak, that the bursting forth and power where everything is, and to such a level that this has also brought us into the land of going through this. We were able to go in and finally go into the Eretz HaKodesh with all beautiful things, and everything is beautiful. So let's look at this inside. And it was when Paro sent out the nation from Egypt, which through the descent of the exile in the land of Egypt, similarly to the second mention of land. Remember, we had land the second time, which has to do with getting the secrets of the Torah. It brought about the virtue and the phenomena of when Paro sent out. This brought about the completion and the complete way that Paro sent out. Now, what's it mean, Paro sent out? That we had the Indian of the Paro, and the Indian for Ispiriyu, to burst forward, meaning that all the godly lights burst forward and are revealed from him. That we went out and we were in the Galus Mitzrayim through that avodah Hashem. We were zocha, we merited that Hashem should give us all these lights, and through this, that Hashem gave us the special power of He Himself, that from the essence of Hashem, we are also entering into good and large land, a land of wheat and barley, a land of olive oil and date honey. It is at the height of perfection, because we're doing everything with Hashem's special power. Therefore, we bring everything in the highest and best way. That's the ability of working through the Golos. Let's see, there's 93, no. It's okay. And note, so down on page 221. And note that after the verse, the land of wheat and barley and date honey, the seventh species which with the land of Israel is praised, is discussed in the continuation of the Torah portion. So, in other words, the Rebbe is going to point out here is that not only that through working through the land, and we're working the land, and we're toiling in the land, and we're being all these different levels in the land of Israel, but he's also pointing out that the land itself is something special. The land of Israel is a special land in itself. It's a place where we see where Hashem's eyes is looking at it all the time. So not only is Hashem giving us the power from to break through the power to go through and inherit this good land, the Rebbe is explaining how wonderful this land is. So that's it. And note that after the verse, the land of wheat and barley and the date honey, the seven species which the land of Israel is praised, that was the 2 times it said land, is discussed in continuation in the Portia, also about the advantage over there in the Portia of the land of Israel over the land of Egypt. For the land of Israel, this is a quote, for the land of Israel that you shall come to inherit, it is not like the land of Egypt, which you went out from there when you sowed your seeds and irrigated with your feet. It is necessary to bring the water from Nile with your feet, as with a garden. So he says over here that in the land of Egypt, it says, look at 97. He says, for although it says in Egypt, in the verse Lech Lecha, as the garden of Hashem, it also is the land of Egypt, especially the land of Ramses, in which the Jews led. It was a beautiful place, resided when they were in the Egyptian exile, which was the best of land of Egypt. It, however, does not reach the greatness of the land of Israel. So even though Egypt is a special place in the world, it has no comparison to the land of Israel. That's what the footnote is telling us. Okay. The land which that says, let's go. We went up where you sow that the seeds and irrigated with your feet. It is necessary to bring the water from the Nile with your feet, as with the vegetable garden. And as in Egypt, they didn't have rain, and so therefore they had the Nile River, so they had to bring the water up. The land which you are passing over, the Jordan to come, the land of Holy Land of Israel, there to inherit, it is a land of mountains and valleys. By the rain of the sky, it drinks water. The land which Hashem's eyes pays particular attention to it. The eyes of Hashem, your God, are always upon it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. This is also, so this is one. So the Rebbe is pointing out that when talking about the idea how the land was so special in Israel, and itself is especially God's land. So this is another point the Rebbe is bringing out. Okay, as emphasized also in the Haftorah, the end of the culmination of the Torah portion. What did we say at the end? It says, in Deborah, the prophetess, she would sit under the date palm, a date tree. The end of the and culmination and the choices of all of the seven species which the land of Israel is praised, date honey, When we mention all the different species, it says the last two is olive, and then it says dates, date honey, and alludes it to the revelation of these aspects of the Torah in the time to come. So each one of the aspects, we're going to a deeper level in Avodas Hashem, and it's revealing more and more. And the last one is the date, which has to do even a higher level of revelation than the olive oil. The olive oil is known as the secrets of the Torah, but this is even a higher level revelation. And we may say the Rebbe is pointing out something brand new. Nobody ever said this before. An additional point in relationship to Dvor's date palm to the state and to the state and standpoint of the time to come. What's going to be is in correlation with the words of the sages. Why specifically under the date palm? Because the prohibition of yichud being secluded with a man that is not her husband, since under the date palm it is not possible to be secluded. So she stood on the date palm so she wouldn't be in with another man. Only with her husband she could be there because there's no shade there. So it was very clear, like standing in the middle of a field. For if it doesn't have any shade, and we may say that this alludes to the fact that the seclusion of Jewish people, the Jewish people are known as Dvar, we're known as the Jewish people. It says something down here. What's bees? It's interesting. Look at 103. Dvar is a bee. This is note from the words of the sages. My children were like bees. Just as a bee, whatever it collects for its master. Similarly, all the gathering of the mitzvahs and good deeds by Jewish people, they collected for their father in Shemayim. So we're like, I used to have a beehive. It was an amazing thing in my room, and you would see the bees would go all over, and they come back, and they would tell the bees where everything was. You'd see them make everything. It's an amazing thing. So I can understand. It's a very good mashal here that we're just like a bee. We're going to collect every little thing we can, whatever we collect, and we bring it back for Hashem. Okay, so therefore the people, the exclusion of the Jewish people, the Dvar like bees, is only for Hashem alone, and therefore we must avoid scenarios of yichud to the utmost degree under a date palm, and through this we merit the seclusion, the unification of the Jewish people with Hashem in the time to come, in the days of Mashiach, which be the marriage of the Jewish people with Hashem. And emphasize also in the end, now we're on page 224. So this is talking about the specialness of the Jewish people, that we're special, we're specially holy for Hashem, and then Hashem is special for us. What this also been said, Hashem will be special just for us too. And emphasize also the end in the culmination of the Torah, the land that was quiet for 40 years. As known for that 40 symbolized the letter Mem, as denotes the perfection of times to come, as the verse says, Lamarbe HaMisra, that the closed mem in the middle of the word, which alludes to redemption. So it says over here that this has to do with, it talks about in the end of the parsha over, and then of Torah, it talks about the idea of that there was, that would use the word instead of mem, like generally mem in the middle of the word has a little break in the bottom of it. But at the end of the word, it's totally enclosed. Times of Mashiach, everything's going to be totally enclosed for holiness. Let's see, he brings on something down here. Let's see if we can understand it. Number 109. See Sefer Aruchim Chabad, Ma'arechus Oisis, a Torah letter, Mem, at the end of it, it says, a closed Mem in general is used at the end of the word. So that says in the royal words of Bahar Bukhu, Kosai 5751, the Rebbe King Mashiach Shlita explains why this is connected to the redemption through Mashiach. Hashem left part of the world for us to perfect. Just in other words, he made the world like the regular mem, he says in here. Like the world was almost complete, but it still needed a little bit to finish it off. So we transform it into the final mem, which is complete, closed on all sides. And the final mem appearing in the middle of the words emphasizes that through our refinement of the world, we complete it, bringing the redemption through Mashiach. In other words, that through our refinement, we complete the world, and this is bringing the redemption through Mashiach. That's that the Rebbe can come and take us home now, because we finished. We finished with the emphasis. We finished our job. We finished everything, and then now we're talking about in the time to come. So what's going to happen in the time to come? Then will also be the perfection before us, Prozos, B'Yushalayim. What's this mean? That all the godly lights, Ispiriyu, burst forward and are revealed from him in Israel and the Jewish people. Similarly to when Bar was sent out, Similarly, it says, power sent out the Jewish people for in the true and complete redemption. So when power sent the Jews out, there's this great revelations. So similarly now we will have for all Jews, we will see all this great revelation of Hashem. For in the true and complete redemption, the Jewish people will receive and eternalize the greatest revelation from the essence of Hashem. In other words, that we're standing, that we will soon see something that nobody even saw before, even greater than the prior generations. And the lesson, and so now we're on number 8, and the lesson and instruction from the above spoken with regard to action. Is it appropriate to utilize the time of the new year for the trees in order to strengthen and add in all aspects of service of land, wheat and barley, and vine, and fig, and pomegranate, and land of olive oil and date honey, as spoken above. That we talked about all this above, but both as far as oneself is concerned, as well as regarding influence others. It says in number 11 down below, page 225, the note, and especially through the affecting others, one attains even more in his service with him. As the words of our sages say, from my students, more than I learn from my students more from all of them. So this is also the Rebbe being done. Let's finish this paragraph, including and especially those arranging for bringings, because these gathering in which the people will arouse each other in all the above spoken matters. So therefore, the Rebbe is saying that when you get involved with helping another Jew, that Hashem helps you, that you also become you lighten up. If you come to teach this stuff, if you talk about this stuff, I talk about this stuff and tell people all the time about this stuff, and I start to live it more. By me teaching it and giving it over, I live it more. And Hashem gives me extra koach. A lot of times I'm explaining things to people, if I would sit down and try and write it out and think it over, I don't think I could do it. But things come out in such a special way. The Rebbe also talks about in other places, they've talked about in the prior sichas, prior talks, about that the Mashiach's here and everything's done and you have to go tell everybody, and if you don't believe it, you just have to explain it, tell everybody, you have doubts yourself and you will become to believe it. Because when you get involved in the truth will take you further and further. And this is the total truth. And it is now we're at page 225, and it is appropriate to arouse also regarding the completeness of the land of Israel, to completely nullify like the dust of the ground the thoughts of the possibility, as well as speaking about giving parts of the land of Israel, which is in our hands, to the nations of the world, not even one handbreadth, moreover, not even one hairbreadth. Instead, we must guard the completeness of the land with which already given in actuality by Hashem to the possession of the Jewish people in the present time. Hashem already gave it to us, along with the completeness of the Jewish nation, as well as the completeness of the Torah, the trifold and eternal completeness. So therefore, Rebbe's one of the main things the two main areas the Rebbe talks about is very much involved is bringing Mashiach, revealing Mashiach in the world. And the other one is the Shleim Sa'aretz, that we shouldn't give up or think about it, do anything involved in it, because the Rebbe says many times it puts all of us in danger. As unfortunately the Jews in Israel have made some very big mistakes and they gave up a lot of land, and as a result we can see that there have been many people who have been injured and died, God forbid, and we should never happen again. And may it be the will of Hashem that the mere making resolutions and all the above spoke, that if we decide that we're going to do more good and special good, what we talked about, which Hashem sees the thoughts of the heart, we will immediately bring about the reward, that with your youth and with our elders we will go, and we will run with the clouds of heaven to our holy land, the land of Israel, in its completeness, not only a land of 7 nations, rather a land of 10 nations, a land of wheat and barley and wine and vine and fig and pomegranate, a land of olive oil and date honey, to eat from its fruit and to be satiated from its goodness. We should be there and to make the blessing in giving gratitude for the land and for its fruit. Moreover, a land full of the precious stones and diamonds, and within the land of Israel itself, into the Jerusalem, the holy city, and then to the holy mountain, and then to the third base of Mikdash, the third holy temple, and then to the Holy of Holies, in which is found the Shesiyah stone, which the entire world was found. There's one stone it's even there, it's even revealed, was never covered up. And this stone is called the Shesiyah stone, and the whole world gets its sustenance from this stone. This is the basis for the world. And the word, and in the wording of the verse of the song that we're on page 227, and the wording of the verse in the Song of the Sea, in the Torah portion of the week which we are now coming from, bring them. So it says at the end, we say this also every day in davening in the prayers. We say Al Jasher Moshe right before Yishtabach. It says at the end, and bring them and plant them on the mountain of your inheritance, Hashem, the sanctuary which your hands, O Hashem, have established. And when Hashem shall reign forever and ever, in the time to come when the entire kingdom is his, the revelation of the kingdom of Hashem in the whole world, which this is especially connected to Rosh Hashanah, which is also related to Rosh Hashanah, the New Year's for the trees. When we recite the verses of kingship and remembrances and shofars, these are different verses we recite in the day of Rosh Hashanah and Tishrei, the beginning of the year. And by these we cause Hashem to reveal his kingdomship into the world, including especially that we should hear the blow of the great shofar for our freedom. And through the addition, and that we hear the great shofar, as the 125 says, as a continuation of the end of the blessing of the shofars, which is after the blessing combinations of the blessing of the kings and the remembrances. So finally, we after we do all of this, we blow the great shofar. So, and through the addition, and through the addition and fulfilling the commandment of charity, which hastens the redemption, we will hasten fulfill all of this in a literal sense, literally immediately. So the growing of the great shofar is a very, very special thing to me. It says that on the Rebbe said this, published a mimer at the beginning of this year. He published a mimer and talking about the blowing of the great shofar. And the blowing of the great shofar says that the shofar blows by itself. That Hashem is blowing it, it doesn't need man, it comes out of him at such a high level, it blows by itself. This is calling the blowing of the great shofar. And I was there, Baruch Hashem, the last time that we heard the Rebbe blow shofar, which was Tafshin Nun Beis, 1992. And I was learning this mimer. This mimer came out this day when the Rebbe blew the shofar at the same time. In the mimer, it explained what's the blowing of the great shofar, that it blows by itself at such a level, it's like a revelation of the essence of godliness, that everything comes by itself. And when I heard the Rebbe blow the second day, I heard it was like it was just coming out by itself. And later on, I talked to a few rabbis, and they told me that when Rebbe blew, it was like water. And another, it says in there is a diary, a daily diary of everything that the Rebbe did. It says in the diary that when the Rebbe blew the last day, it went easy. It was very easy, much gleich. It went 1, 2, 3, very smooth, not like other times. So basically, so we know that what to learn from this act, from what the Rebbe did, is that all these revelations are already here, and are already happening. This is the Rebbe's telling us, and so we really, really have to take advantage of the wonderful time, the wonderful things that God has done for us, and we have to work harder and be happier and be more joyous. So we should be right away in the third base of Migdash, right away with the Rebbe Melech Mashiach Shlita, with everybody in the whole world. Sei gesund, everybody, and be well. And tomorrow we get to start a very, very special class too. Bye.